That our students were going out and telling other people, I go to this dope school called Emerge. They cook for us. They love us. They take us places. You know, they treat us like they see us. And a lot of their friends or people that they know in the community were coming back and enrolling in our program because they heard about how well we were doing. And so I think that is the most important measure of, you know, what's working, what's, you know, kind of the best thing for our youth is how they respond to our program and kind of what we see as a result of that.
Hello, and welcome back to our 3-part video series, and thanks for joining. In this last video series, we will be diving deeper into take action against trafficking of Black girls with a focus on education and mentoring.
Welcome, everyone. Before we begin the interview, I'd like to open the floor to the interviewees. Randa, is it okay if I start with you for introductions?
My name is Randa Powell. I'm the program coordinator for Emerge Academy. I'm from Oakland, California. My pronouns are she, her, and I enjoy listening to music and spending time with my family and friends.
My name is Micah. I'm the lead instructor at Emerge Academy in Oakland. I'm from Oakland, California. My pronouns are she and her. And yeah, I don't have anything else to share. I do love spending time with my friends and family as well. I love music. I love the youth. I love my community. And I love being me. I love being Black. But we can go on. But yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. And thank you for being a community and joining us today. My name is Michaela Dawkins, pronouns she and her. I'm from New Haven, Connecticut, and I serve as a member of the Girls Action Board. And I also love the good weather, shopping, and I also love being melanated.
Hello, my name is Martine Jones. I'm also a member of the Girls Action Board, and I also love being melanated, and we all have a lot in common. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm from California, and I'm really excited to be here with you all today.
Well, thank you, Martine. And to kick off this conversation, I'd like to ask you to tell us a little bit about your organization and some of the services that you provide.
We work for an organization called the Mentoring Center, and the Mentoring Center provides transformative mentoring as well as case management and trainings as well as wraparound services to youths and adults who are at risk and system impacted. We believe that every young person and adult should have access to training and opportunities so they could reach their unlimited potential. Our program Emerge is one of the only youth programs that serves girls, and Emerge stands for Educating, Mentoring, Empowering, and Reaffirming Our Girls for Excellence. We are an alternative education program that serves young women ages 16 to 18 in the Oakland area who are coming out of a condition of confinement or foster care, who have been CSEC involved, as well as just who are at risk or, you know, just need support, who have been separated from school for a considerable amount of time.
Thank you. Can you describe the policies and procedure within your organization that centers Black girls?
Some of the things that we have implemented within our program to serve our girls has strategically been placed there to meet one of our main goals of our program, which is to repair the relationship with education for our girls. And if you're familiar kind of with what goes on with African-American girls or Black girls in school, is that a lot of times they're demonized or ostracized from school based on their dress code, or pushed out of school based off how they show up naturally to school, what they wear, what they have access to wear. And so the dress code that we have implemented within our school was created by our girls, and co-created by our girls to make sure that they are not being pushed out. And so in addition to the dress code, our drug and alcohol policy was also created by our kids. That was a very interesting process, to say the least, in terms of making sure that, we are creating a space that is consistent with being appropriate for school, but also making sure that we honor the kids. And in addition to the safe space that we create at the school, no warrants or urinalysis can be served on site for girls who are on probation, which is really important because a lot of times when we get students who are referred by probation, probation officers will come and kind of, just show up at the school and want to kind of take over and kind of say, hey, you have to do all of these things. And so we wanted to make sure that our students weren't being, kind of backed into a corner. In addition to that, students, since they can't serve warrants, a lot of times, even when students would be AWOL from probation, they would still be able to come to school, which in some cases keeps young people from attending school regularly because they're afraid that they will be arrested while at school. And so that was something that was really important for our probation referred young people, or people who've had a run-in with the law before, to have the access to those things. Lastly, it's important that our young people know that they can always come back and try again. We like to call it the porch light is always on. So even if you're disconnected from school for a considerable amount of time, you can come back and pick up where you left off, in order to repair your high school credits and ultimately with the goal to graduate.
So what kind of services do you provide that center around Black girls regarding commercial exploitation? Like what other ways would you show up like that center, that subject?
I would like Micah to talk a little bit about how we center African American culture within our curriculum to really be able to give those images and that representation to our young people throughout curriculum. So Micah, if you want to talk a little bit about some of the curriculums that you've created in order to make sure that Black girls are represented.
We are on an independent studies type curriculum. So we have a teacher of record, Lori Thielen, and she provides the students with packets coursework. So that is everything from English to econ to history. However, I provide a supplemental curriculum, which is culturally focused, African American focused. We do have one Latina student, so I do include curriculum and literature for her as well, but the majority of the girls are African American and have been for as long as I've been there, for about 4 years. So when it comes to, for example, government, everything that we would learn normally in a government course, I would also parallel it with African American history so that they understand where we stand in these policies, laws, and how they affect us. We also provide media. So say there's a documentary that we want to watch that is has some type of connection to whatever we're learning, we'll do that as well. The students love to read. We also take turns. We read aloud. That is one thing that we always do. We read aloud so that the kids can get into character. It helps them better understand the relevancy of the time period in which we are reading. And then we also watch a film adaptation so that they can also picture it as it would be during that time as well. And then we also do more modern things, but they're more, so we do QODs, question of the days, for example. And those will be based on where they are at in the moment. So we may ask, like, how was your weekend? What did you do? What parties did you engage in? What type of, just more things that have to do with them personally. And then we'll delve into that. We'll read their passages, often respond to them. So everything is like culturally relevant to them.
Yes, Micah, thank you so much. And it's important to really talk about how the curriculum that we provide is engaged in self and knowledge of self, because a lot of the young women who come from a CSEC background need to connect to images as well as curriculum that they could see themselves within, especially when you're disconnecting from such a traumatic experience, such as exploitation. A lot of times information and different things related to education are kind of thrown at you, but they don't really see themselves within the curriculum. They don't know that there's things that happen or parallel, in the past, present, and future that are related to them. And so in addition to our curriculum being focused around them and them being able to have that imagery and representation, we also provide referrals to other partners in the community like Missy, who they focus specifically on sexually exploited minors, Bay War, Bay Area Women Against Rape. So we provide those resources to other organizations who are also experts in the work for them to gain resources and access to kind of those wraparound services. So in addition to the educational portion, they could be getting counseling, they could be getting job placement, they could be getting assistance with housing, they could be getting a wraparound service and support to kind of assist them in having access to basic needs that ultimately may be a mitigating factor in them being at risk for exploitation. And it's really important that when we come in contact with young women who are CSEC involved, that we are presenting them with opportunities to disengage from exploitation when they've been forced or otherwise into that situation. And so, the curriculum being focused on them, in addition to the type of organizations that we refer them to and that we partner with, are really ways that we try to focus on centering our curriculum as well as our practices on Black girls who are currently being exploited.
When considering the effectiveness of your policies, procedures, and equitable practices, what assessments are in place to measure these successes or shortcomings?
Was first created, it was a pilot program, kind of like a brainchild of the book Push Out by Dr. Monique Morris. And so we took a lot of the theories and best practices that she articulated within that literature and infused it into our program. And so with it being a pilot, kind of like when you watch that first season of something on Netflix, you kind of don't know what to expect. And it was important that we had an opportunity to evaluate that process that would allow us to get findings from that assessment to determine what our effectiveness would be. And so we have been evaluated by the National Black Women's Justice Institute, but in addition to being evaluated, we do data collection and analysis through some of our grants that we have with like Oakland Fund for Children and Youth, as well as the City of Oakland. We're measured on the amount of hours that we serve our youth, just to make sure that we're showing up and providing the amount of time that it takes in order to really make a difference in the lives of our youth. We're also assessed based off of our reduction of recidivism and students who come into our program who have been system impacted in terms of incarceration. 90% of the students who have been involved in Emerge have not reoffended, as well as 90% of the students who have been involved in Emerge have been released from probation as a result of being a part of our program. And those were things that came out through the pilot process early on when we were, first starting out. But since we've transitioned to an alternative education program, one of our biggest ways that we're assessing our effectiveness is our graduation rates, right? And so throughout the pandemic, Emerge has consistently been able to graduate students throughout the pandemic. Our largest number of students that we graduated was 10 students in the first part of the pandemic back in 2020. And so those are a few ways that we go about assessing our policies and procedures to make sure that we're being effective. But the one thing people don't always talk about in that process, people throw out data analysis and reducing rates, but the way our kids respond to us and the way that they have made sure that our program had the opportunity to grow in the way that it has was a lot of our past recruitment efforts was based off of word of mouth, that our students were going out and telling other people, I go to this dope school called Emerge, they cook for us, they love us, they take us places, they treat us like they see us. And a lot of their friends or people that they know in the community were coming back and enrolling in our program because they heard about how well we were doing. And so I think that is the most important measure of, what's working, what's, kind of the best thing for our youth is how they respond to our program and kind of what we see as a result of that.
You guys have made so much progress and you've learned from what works and what doesn't work. And it's just about that community building and that support that you guys have in your relationship with your girls. And I love it. And I wish I was part of the group.
I wish I had it too when I was like a teenager. Wouldn't we all love to go to a school like Emerge?
Yes.
That's important because we put into it what we all wanted from school.
I love that reflection. So like you said that you like to put in what you wish you had. Yes. So what are some lessons learned or things that you might do differently in the program? Like I love that you naturally have that reflection variable.
I think it's really important in terms of that experience that I had in high school, even though it was hella long ago, was just, I was never listened to, and I was a big mouth Black girl, whatever that means. Our friend is launching a new series called Big Mouth Woman. And I remember one of my teachers referred to me by my student ID number, which I've never forgotten because it was 57210. And the teacher referred to me as my student ID number, and it never left me. Like I was in prison, y'all. Like, oh, 52710. Like, I was like, how you got your schedule and your number is at the top. My binder just happened to be open, and I'm looking, and he keeps saying it, and I saw it on my paper, and I was like, I know he is not. I know he tried it, like, but it really changed. It really stuck with me. Like, what are you doing? Like, my name is Randa Powell. Like, call me by my name. And I just feel like those are those disconnects that happen that make you feel small. They make you feel like, do I really want to be here? Is this meant for me? Is this the place for me? And so, I think it's important. Micah and I both went to really strong schools within the Bay Area. I went to Berkeley High School, which was one of the only high schools in Oakland that had an African American Studies department. And even at Micah's school, they had a program called Triumph and a variety of other, organizations and programs within schools that really championed African American youth. And we were both a part of Black organizations in Oakland that really lifted us up. And I'll have Micah talk about her experience with TMC shortly, but I think it's really about showing our kids that we see them, because I did not feel seen until I got in trouble in school. And I feel like that's the experience, right? Black girls get pushed out because of what they say, they get pushed out because how they look, and you're often made to be the aggressor in situations when you're just speaking your mind. And so I never wanted to make anybody feel like that. Like I wanted to make sure that never happened again.
I was actually a participant in the mentoring center when I was a youth. My mom was an employee there. And so technically I'm the first legacy employee of the mentoring center. I was led there due to a fight that I had in middle school, 7th grade. It was a really bad fight. I had great grades, but the fight it was bad. And so they were pushing for expulsion from Oakland public schools. I was able to stay in school because my grades were good, but they did advise or recommend that I go to anger management. Instead of anger management, my mom asked, could I attend Positive Minds group meetings that were at the mentoring center. As Randa mentioned earlier, the mentoring center is founded on transformative mentoring. They would pretty much teach us why we acted the way we acted, which was basically based off our environments, based off of what we were told we were, who we believe we are, and then they go in and break down why we think those things of ourselves. And ultimately, they the same way that they taught us is the same way that I like to teach our youth today, because you're never just born to be violent, a criminal, like someone who abuses drugs. Like, you're not born like that. Usually you learn from your environment. Everything that they taught me is what I teach our youth. And me and Randa also came up in different organizations together in the Bay. We worked at Oakland Freedom School together. So this type of work is nothing new to either one of us. It's passion work, and we've developed a great friendship off of it. That's longer than a decade, I would say.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
probably
It's
two.
been more than a decade. Yes, that's a part of it too. Like working with people that you respect and that have had experiences loving kids, you know what I mean? And like working in the community to make sure that we're kind of meeting the needs of the young people that we see that are in our families, that we were, that's important.
I would like to echo everyone on the call that has said that they wish they had this was younger, because as a system impacts youth, I wish I had this. And I think that a lot of organizations should take notes from y'all, and we need more of this. So moving into the next question, it relates to what we've already discussed. Ideally, what does equity for Black girls look like? And how does your organization turn the idealistic into a realistic opportunity?
So the safe space, we can't, reiterate that enough, because, there's not a lot of spaces that melanated people feel safe in, and school is really kind of at the top of the top 5 list of one of those places. And what a safe space, because people, like I said, throw out all these jargon words, these buzzwords, but more specifically, what that looks like for us is a judgment-free zone. And I think Micah does this really well with our kids, as well as all of our staff members. But when students come in to talk to us about things, not coming from a place of why they do the things that they do, but kind of what are the needs that aren't being met, how are they thinking about what happened, or how can we always come from a solution oriented place when responding to our kids, more than a why did you do that type of thing, because you can't go back, you can't change things, but let's move forward in a way that's positive and that really honors who you really are, not what you did. And so I think that kind of segues into continuing supporting them no matter what, and that sometimes looks like our students need to be able to express themselves verbally, emotionally, and have that open communication with us. We have been cussed out many times, and I know that that isn't the most appropriate way for young people to express themselves, but sometimes having a student kind of cuss you out, right, offers a teachable moment for you, one, to teach them other ways to, explain what it is that they're trying to say without using profanity, without being so aggressive sometimes. And even if they are aggressive, okay, you're aggressive. Okay, well, I understand what you're saying. Let's figure out a different way to kind of communicate those things. Let's figure out when there's a time and a place for those things. And number one is I hear you. Okay, all right, you're right. Right. And really listening, like actively listening to what they're saying, because sometimes people get caught up in the delivery, the tone, kind of the drama of it all. But sometimes it's like a cry for help. Like, when you're not used to being listened to, sometimes you feel like you got to speak louder and you got to make yourself bigger to be heard. And so I think that in a way, one of the ways that we champion, that space for our young people is allowing them to express themselves freely, and to be their authentic selves, and not make themselves small. And so sometimes we take up the brunt of that, but we also use it as an opportunity to redirect our students in a way that can be healthy, and in future experiences where they need to express themselves, that they might be able to do it in a different way, to make sure that they're getting their full point across, and that the things that they need are being heard and that their needs are being met.
I think you spoke a lot about creating safe space
Mm-hmm.
and healing, specifically in the Black community. We don't really talk about emotional intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability, and the importance of mental health and getting it out enough. So I just wanted to say thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And we need more of that, because mental health and mental illness is really important.
I think one of the other things that I forgot to mention, I looked at my notes, was the exposure to new things. Both Micah and I and our other staff member are well-traveled. We've had access to opportunities to kind of change our narrative about who we are based off the thing where we've been and the things that we've had experiences with and exposure to. And I think it's really important to take our students out of the city that they're in, whether it be New Haven, whether it be Baltimore, whether it be Detroit, whether it be Oakland, urban cities, right? And give them the opportunity. Some of our kids have never seen snow. You know what I mean? Some of our kids don't know that you can wake up in one place, jump on a plane and be in a new time zone, wake up in a new time zone, or just, we as we're surrounded by colleges. Martine, because you're in Pomona, correct? Like there's so many USC, University of California schools, and Cal State schools throughout California. Like there's a bunch of them, and having college tours and opportunities to actually stay in a dorm through different camps and things that happen, like really giving them the opportunity to see that there's a life outside of where you are and what you're going through that's bigger than you, that allows them to vision themselves and to kind of seek those experiences. I'm sorry I'm laughing, but one of our students is a jet setter for real. One of our recent graduates, and every time we look up, like she is somewhere else. She is living her best life, and she is like 18 or 19 years old. And it just gives me so much joy to know she's not where she comes from. She can kind of be anywhere. And sometimes it doesn't always look like traveling. Sometimes it could look like getting a facial. Black girls deserve luxury. Black girls deserve opulence. Black girls deserve self-care. You know what I mean? And so we champion that in those ways. And that's what I mean when I talk about exposure. So it doesn't always have to look like, leaving. Sometimes you got to make the best of what you have where you are.
I think you really hit the nail on the head with talking about honoring the self and honoring rest and luxury.
Mm-hmm.
And if it wasn't for certain people in my life, like you and your program, I would have never been exposed to it, because a lot of my peers have the story of not making it out as well, or just like, oh, like you're exposed to this. So I think that is really important. And if we don't have these tools and these programs, then we'll never get there. But yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
My heart, it resonated with me, and I see myself.
So as a result of facing abuse, like Black girls can exhibit behaviors that are oftentimes demonized and heightened, like anger, behavioral issues, or depression or hopelessness. How is your program formatted to give a proficient understanding of these behaviors, and what strategies do you use to keep these behaviors from being barriers to their success?
Sometimes our students tap out, and then we allow them to tap back in, which is similarly to the porch light is always on kind of motto or model. Because, when a student hasn't slept that night or didn't have anything to eat, or, just didn't really want to be at school, but they showed up anyways. Sometimes they need a little bit, they don't need to come to school. They just need somebody to kind of talk to. They need to like process what they're going through. So we allow our students to tap out. Giving them the space to tap out also allows us to counter that with asking them to tap in, which is like, okay, you can have a break, or you could stop, or you could leave and then come back tomorrow and try it again. But when you come back, it's all gas, no breaks. Like, let's go. It's go time, beast mode, whatever you want to call it, right? And so I think that's really important, because we all know what it's like to feel hopeless, like, or feel disengaged, to feel frustrated, not with just the educational process, right, but with life, right? Because life shows up in different ways for all of us. And when we're talking specifically about trauma, sometimes a lot of times our students have been through so many traumas, it's hard to kind of step out of that. And sometimes it takes trauma for them to come back to us and to seek the support and help that they need to move forward.
Randa mentioned earlier that we allow them to tap out, and it just made me think about the relationships that we have with them, especially me as an instructor. Most of my teachers didn't have my phone number. I don't know any teacher of mine that ever had my phone number or that checked up on me when I didn't come to class or on the weekend or whatever, right? So in addition to being a teacher, I feel like I also act as like a case manager. They feel like they have like a big sis or an auntie, somebody who's really looking out for them. I think that contributes to the safe space, them knowing that they could always come back, them knowing that they could call us if they're stranded, they need somebody to take them to get some clothes for an interview, they need help with coaching through interview questions, they need just advice about anything. We're there completely. It's like family. And I think that is what creates that cycle of knowing I can always come back, because one of our students left for more than a year and is about to graduate this year, so being really personal with our relationships as opposed to you're the student, I'm the instructor, and there's nothing else.
We show solidarity with our kids through actions, not words. I think what we do really well is we do what we say we're going to do. And I think it's really important to remain consistent with our kids because consistency is not common, especially within education, and then especially kids who are coming through, have had trauma in their lives or, have had experiences of trauma. And again, the strong follow through and follow up, we try to counteract some of the not so good things, the trauma, the hopelessness, the depression, that happens with our young people.
Can you describe what restorative programming means to your organization and provide an example of what it looks like operationally?
So when we talked about open, free expression of our young people, and we talked about them being able to share their feelings, thoughts, and emotions, it's really important that that's without punitive action. And something that we haven't stated during this interview is that when students have situations where they are expressing themselves, they are in violation of the dress code, they are in violation potentially of the drug and alcohol policies that we have in place, when they are chronically truant and they haven't showed up to school, when they just aren't coming ready to engage in class, we do not use punitive actions to respond to our young people. We are not suspending you. We are not sending you home. We are not expelling you. We are not responding, having a responsive approach to potentially an outburst that you might have, potentially an argument that you might have. The way we respond to our young people is very much tailored in a love response. Like the only exception for any of those things is you causing physical harm to another person. It's how you respond to those things that ultimately can shape a student's educational process, development, and growth, right? And so I think that's one of the biggest things that I don't think we've touched on, while we've been talking about how we do restorative programming. Where we're currently housed at Girls Inc. of Alameda County, there's a gourmet kitchen, a meditation room, a gym. Like, it's a beautiful space to be in. We love being there. And every week we do a grocery list with our students. So because we have a like refrigerator, it's like a home kitchen. And so we stock our kitchen with all of the stuff that we've co-created this list for. Now, I'm not buying noodles, ramen, cup of noodles, hot dogs. There's certain things that I take away from the list because I'm trying to, teach them how to eat healthier and stuff like that. But that's a big part. Food brings everybody together, no matter if there's a language barrier, a cultural barrier. If you're mad, if somebody offer you a plate of food, you still might eat, even if you're mad. So it kind of works out that they have an opportunity to kind of create, because some of them don't have access to food at home either. So we're creating an opportunity. We'll have a kid come in at 12 o'clock and class is over at 1 and they're hungry. Go eat. And when you get, when you're done with that, let's see how we can engage you while you're here. And so, those are some ways that and then they show up the next day on time because, that's the ask, right? We honor where they're at, but we a lot of times ask for a different response when they do return. And that's been successful.
What trauma-informed practices would you model for other programs?
A lot of times kids will tell you what they need, or young people will tell you what they need. You just have to be willing to listen and then apply. And a lot of times they don't expect you to do it right then. And so when I talked about leading with actions and not just words, when you hear them say something, like come right with it. And they're not used to like that response time being short. And so I would say when your kids tell you that they need something, especially because a lot of times young people don't always express what their needs are, it's important to meet them as soon as possible or put things in place to actually meet their needs in a way that would be effective in them being successful. We just talked about letting them lead. So really create opportunities for them to show up and be in the forefront of that process, asking their opinions about things. We have learned so much from our youth. It isn't just we're the teachers, we're the know-it-alls, we're the program coordinators, we have all the answers. They have definitely taught us a lot. And so being open to learning from them as well and letting them know that they're a conduit of information as well. Like you have answers, you have solutions, like we can learn from you. And then lastly, what I would say to that is then not labeling Black girls based off of what or who you think they are or experiences that you've had as a service provider in the past. And so when you are dealing with CSEC involved young women, when you are dealing with system impacted young women or foster care kids, you don't want to be like, oh, that's my foster care kid, or that's the girl who likes to fight, or that's the loud one, right? So not really labeling them in ways that even if they can't hear it, right? Because sometimes, we categorize people in places and subconsciously treat that person based off of the label we put on them. And so it's important to use positive ways of thinking about our kids. I mean, even if they are acting a certain way, let's focus on some of the things they're really good at. Like that's my writer, or like she's really good at writing, or, that's my singer, or she's like a future president. Like she's so good at like articulating everything. Like think about them in ways that, and again, that's labeling them in some ways, but not labeling them in ways that are negative, because that could subconsciously come out in the way that you treat your young people as well.
I went through that experience. I was totally different than what my teachers that didn't look like me slapped a label on me as.
Mm-hmm.
And that really impacted the way I saw myself. And, I would have never seen myself being the person I am today due to the environment and the school where it was, non-Black educators,
Mm-hmm.
criminalizing me. I could have
Mm-hmm.
never saw that. So I really love that practice. Thank you.
I just wanted to add one last practice to initially, from the beginning of meeting a child, is building a great rapport, because then that relationship is more balanced. You're actually, of course, if you're building a rapport, you're not judging, right? You're allowing them to be who they are and to build a natural relationship. And I feel like that is always a great way to diffuse conflict or aggression, because you know how to approach them, as opposed to meeting them here. You're more, here, because you already know how to communicate with them. So I would say rapport is a very great practice to lead when dealing with children.
Thank you so much, Micah, because I think that just speaks even more to the leaving the light on the porch light, just having that knowing that they have that access to you and building those relationships is so important. And then also language is really important. As when you earlier said as that practice is just being mindful of how you address them. So I would like to ask them the question, like, would you share like your top 3 lessons that would be best to assist other organizations in the work with us?
A lot of our organizations are, it's a word, but it's an acronym, right? And it emerges educating, mentoring, empowering, and reaffirming our girls for excellence, right? And I think it's really important as your organization to teach your youth what your organizational name means and what you're expressing through that message, because kids are like, oh, I go to Emerge or I go to this school. But what are the actual, acronym breakdowns of what you are encouraging or what you're trying to convey in your program? And then really allowing them to learn more about your mission. Because obviously we have accreditation with, a county school, but who Emerge is a lot deeper than just being a school, and making sure that they know that education is a humongous part of what we do, but we're there to inspire, we're there to reaffirm. We see excellence within them. We want the best for them. And we want them to be invested in our mission and what we overall want and see for them. So that's a really big part of, kind of what I would pass on to other organizations. We love our kids and we say it while we're doing it. Like, you could say, I've had situations where I've had a student come to me and say, you don't like me, do you? And I was like, I don't always like you, but I love you. So I'm going to ride for you. Like, I'm going to show up for you. I'm going to do what I said I was going to do. I'm going to make sure you have the best opportunity of everything while you're connected to me and while we're in each other's space. And she just kind of looked at me like she wasn't expecting for me to say that. Even if organizations aren't able to really say that to their young people, they can feel it, and so just really just trying to lace little parts of your organization with love. Even if you have to have your kids write a love letter to themselves, because having the opportunities where students are able to show love to themselves is really important, and we don't always highlight those things. But I can't reiterate enough that Black girls need the opportunity to say what they feel, think, and be their authentic selves, and so really putting a spotlight on that, and giving opportunities for them to shine, like unadulterated, unfiltered, be yourself, be who you really are. And so I think those are things that, like, I can't say enough in terms of how I think other organizations can use our model to be successful.
I think that this relates to the final question. If you could expand your organization to serve girls around the globe, what would you say to them, specifically Black girls that have been system impacted or have the lived expertise of trafficking?
There is nothing that we cannot do, right? Like, and it is actually our goal, Micah, Naisha, and I, to be able to go around the country and go around the world and teach other organizations and companies and service providers how to do this work authentically with people who look like us. If we could travel all over the world and show people how to do this face to face and apply it in action in real time, that would be like a dream come true. When we're thinking specifically about young women who are coming out of a situation of being exploited, they have a heightened awareness on risk assessment and what it is to take risks to get to a certain place, right? Because being exploited in the context of which they have been, they are taking all the risk without any reward, right? There's all these things happening in those scenarios of CSEC young women. And so a lot of times when we think about girls and children who've been exploited, there's a tremendous amount of trauma that has been inflicted upon them. And I think it would do any organization serving that population well to obviously address the trauma that they've been exposed to, but also to be aware and to redefine the ability to rise from what they've been through and use that in a way that could be positive for their lifestyle. So that's what I would say, is kind of taking some of those raw, really difficult kind of things that they've been through in terms of the risk, in terms of the pain, in terms of, kind of just all of it, and putting it in a different, using it in a different direction.
What is the best way that organizations can contact you and stay in the loop?
You can reach Emerge on Instagram at TMC4Emerge. You can also email us at emerge@mentor.org, or you can give us a call at 510-891-0427. We look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much once again for being in community with us. It was a pleasure hearing about your program and the great things that you bring to the system impacted youth community. We look forward to keeping in touch with you and look forward to the great work that you do.
Hey everyone, I'm Toyin, a member of the GAB team. That was an amazing discussion among our fellow GAB members and the leaders and coordinators at Emerge. That being said, I just wanted to leave you all with some key takeaways that I know I gained from this. I love how Emerge focuses on creating a judgment-free zone so that Black girls can be themselves and feel comfortable sharing any problems they may face, moving away from the authoritarian approach and treating them with the respect they deserve. Not only are they allowing girls to be their most authentic selves, they're doing so without punitive action. Through their restorative programming, they allow free expression. And I love that because of this, their responses come from a strength-based and loving approach. And most importantly, they're actively listening, giving them the autonomy and respect to listen to their needs and trusting them and their lived experiences. Being open to learning Black and system-involved girls and letting them lead rather than labeling or brushing them off. Randa and Micah represent Emerge well, where they help young women find their sense of purpose and learn vital life skills to tap into their truest potential. By creating a safe space for them in their organization, they are truly and fully serving Black girls. This concludes the end of our third and final session. Again, thank you for your time and support and being a part of our 3-part video series.
A national leadership team made up of a diverse representation of female-identified Black girls ages 18 to 24. We are committed to creating pathways for Black girls to lead in the work that centers their healing, resilience, and professional development. We focus on Black girls who are disproportionately represented in trafficking and create a space for their voices to be uplifted and moved to the forefront of the field by providing training and technical assistance to the organizations that serve them. Our team is dedicated to capacity building, authentic youth collaboration, and building community. We utilize our passion, power, and pursuit of change to support the prevention and early intervention efforts of trafficking of Black girls. So who are we here at Youth Collaboratory? Well, Youth Collaboratory serves organizations and professionals working to improve the lives of young people, their families, and the communities. We harness the power of youth services community to innovate, evaluate, and drive effective strategies that assure the safety and well-being of youth and young adults, and unlocking their limitless potential. Our focuses are on coordinated community responses to youth and young adult homelessness, preventing and addressing relationship violence, sexual exploitation, and trafficking of youth, and supporting opportunities for young people to build community with family, peers, and others to enhance their assets, explore their strengths, and develop lasting connections. To learn more about our work, please visit our website at www.youthcollaboratory.org.